So I am on my way just to go to the local gym to get my swim in. As I'm going there, a lot of thoughts are going through my mind. This morning I was going through, just glancing through Facebook, and I saw this post, and it was from somebody in this group called the Living Zen. So Living Zen's a spirituality group, and nothing about the group is good, but they put out this statement that said, I think I read, if your brain is like a computer and a computer doesn't have free will, then why do you think you have free will? So there's a lot of comments about that statement, and I know it's kind of a little bit in fun, it's intellectual, but ultimately what it did for me was it did stir up some of the things and trends that I've noticed in our modern day of social media and computers. Why I bring that up is my background actually is I graduated. I had worked for many years of my life as an electrical engineer, and as an electrical engineer, I had the opportunity, and I grew up in a point where computers were around, but the idea of a personal computer, a computer, and then let me back this up, because there used to be a time when computers were large, massive things that no one had in their day-to-day life. There was no concept of something on your desk that you could type in or go to work and type in a screen. It was something that was not accessible to everybody. And so I got the chance to, when I was growing up, at that point, I think the way you program computers was they used to use punch cards. There was actually a separate place where you'd punch in these things into cards, and then somebody would feed them at a computer center to program the computer. And these computers, at that point, they might have been, fit into a small bedroom. Maybe a bit more than that. Maybe just think of a room-sized box, or boxes together that form this computer. And I remember when I was, I'm gonna say maybe 15. There used to be this store called Radio Shack, and in Radio Shack, it was the place. Actually, if you wanted to get a computer, they really were the only place you could really get a sense of what a computer is like. It was like a magical store, and computers were just way beyond. They were really expensive, and just wow, there's no way you can get one of those. These are those computers, compared to nowadays, they're like little dust particles. They can't do anything compared to any little smart gadget that we have. Not even close. But back then it was just wow, because there was nothing else. They were just magical. And so the best that I could do is no way computers, but was to actually work in like a hobby electronic person. They have these little, they sell these chips, they sell these plug-in boards where you can plug in the chips and the wires in there. And what I remember was the thing that really got to me was I wanted to make one of these, just a digital display. That's all it was. Because I was always fascinated, like, with the clocks, digital clocks. They were switching over from, always like dials on the clock hands, but they, at some point, they came out with these digital ones, and it was the fad. It was like, wow, you could actually read the numbers. You don't have to interpret the positions on the dial. And that was so cool. I guess what my point is, so I had an opportunity when I was little to focus on the very simple, basic aspects of what's behind a computer. And I know, to the point of like I touched the wires and hooked it to the battery and knew how to like get this power supply cleaned up from 120 volts AC to 5 volts DC, and got to touch the actual chips that drove a single digital display. So it's an LED display with all these little, it's like a squarish type of thing for all the numbers, the digits, and got to work with the logic, the Boolean logic, which is basically consisting of these combinations of input electricity and how it controls what the output electricity, the transistors in there. Got to work with the individual transistors, working in conjunction to create these different Boolean gates, AND gates, OR gates, NOT gates, exclusive OR gates, and hook them up, and got to appreciate the magicalness of translating ones and zeros into something that looked more human-like, a digital display. And then I got to go from there and expand it further and write programs on computers that initially there really was no graphical capability. Meaning by that, just it could really, computers, there was a time they could only do letters and numbers, and that was it. It was pretty fixed. There was no concept of actual pictures on it. It just has to be just pure numbers, letters, characters. And so then I got to program in the beginnings of the graphics behind the actual letters, and to actually peek and poke the individual pixels in there. And so I got to, at the very beginning end of the translation of very detailed things into more and more sophisticated things that put layers and layers of further enhancements that made it more human-made, more less and less thinking in digital and more creative. And so that I was part of that generation. And as time went on, the whole goal of the art and actually the science of creating these computer programs, these developers that were behind it, was to make it simpler and simpler. And so today's generations of developers are benefiting from the successive layers and layers of sophistication that have been placed upon computers, all the way down to the very digital ones and zeros and wires and plus 5 volts and 0 volts. And so what I find is today we give way too much credit to computers and to the ideal of artificial intelligence, to the point that it's like computers, there is no concept of what it would have been like without computers. They're just prevalent. They're everywhere. If you watch the movie The Matrix, it really has been a matrix unfolding, that there, as you're watching this, probably most of you have no concept of a world where there is no internet, there is no Facebook, there is no social media, there is no thing that you can punch in and interact with other people. It's I don't know, the best analogy, I guess, just to describe there was a world before computers, like, imagine if I described to you, there was a world before there was air. We didn't have air. It's like, what? There was a world, yes, we didn't live in these bodies. There was a world before we actually had human bodies. And you were like, what? That's almost like we have now a digital virtual world. There was a world, actually, we existed before that. And I think a lot of you are thinking, what? How can that be? And so in that realm of just having known it's always existed, a lot of you, and there's a lot of people, the people in leadership position, of the leaders, the current CEOs of our world, view that this world, life is like a computer. The statement has been stated by more than once, that all of life, all the universe, is really an artificial intelligence. And which actually is, I'm going to say, a bit of an insult or to ourselves, because it's to say that everything, all this creation, all divinity, the idea of divinity goes out the door. There is no divinity in artificial intelligence. It's that there's no such thing as divinity, and maybe the concept of after you die, there's nothing, and all you are is really part of this sophisticated pre-thought machinery. And what you gain out of that belief is, one, you gain a sense, at least if you're on the top of the food chain, top of the order of the hierarchy, you gain a sense of superiority, that you are in charge of this massive computer system, this massive artificial intelligence, and so you get to control it, and so that gives you a sense of power. But to the many of others, it's the sense of disempowerment. It's, hey, this is how life is. You are under the delusion that you have free will, that you are in control of your life, that there's these things like love, compassion, kindness. But no. It's all just logical feelings and an illusion. And there's no... when I think of that, there's just a sadness in there, aside from the sense of superiority and of the person on top, and then the sense of, just for all the majority of people who are not on top, just a sense of sadness. And then if you don't feel that, then it's just going to be a sense of rage, and a sense of wanting to like fight and say, no, it's your fault because my expert CEO said this, or my pundit, whoever it may be, someone in politics, someone like QAnon, some other type of mystical figure, someone who says, I am woke, or someone who says, woke is a delusion, or someone who says, preserve my culture, the American culture, preserve or prevent replacement of ourselves. That's what it all causes, or at least it feeds into, this idea that we think of all the things that we've created. And then we forgot in some sense that it's actually, yeah, it is us that's created. And we give it a little more mystery and mystique and awe. And then we turn it around and say that this thing that we created with these limitations, actually, that's us within our own limitations. And that's true. The truth is, we can make it that way. And because what we ultimately believe and make of this world, we will actually, in a self-fulfilling prophecy, we will make it so. That's the very irony of this free will. We have the free will, and I'm going beyond free will, the very twist about this idea of creating our own reality. We can create our own reality, including the reality that we cannot create our own reality, that we are part of an artificial intelligence machines, that we are pre-programmed and we are locked in. We are locked in to the matrix. So your choice is, if there's a red pill and a blue pill, and let's say the red pill is the one that, let's say the blue pill is the one that keeps you into the matrix. The idea that all this wonderful creation, especially if you're the one in charge of it, that's in control of everything. Our life is that way. And if you're on top of everything, you can master this and you can manipulate the economies and people of the future, and you can manipulate their emotions. Or the red pill, that actually all this is a self-imposed illusion and delusion. And that actually all of us have this concept of divinity in all of us. And then this matrix will dissolve. You make the choice.